Hello everybody, in this cool video I'm going to be teaching you how to make custom enchantments for older Minecraft versions such as 1.16 down to 1.8.8. This video is a part of the full NMS Advanced training course which teaches you how to understand NMS, how to understand packets. It does not require you to know anything about NMS much at all. You are also going to get a full Java course included, including twice per week live coaching calls with me. If you do want to learn more about the class, check out the link in the video's description. Otherwise, we're going to be cracking into the full lesson from that course. If you want to get all the source code, I'm going to leave a link to them in the video description, and I will see you in the video. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the multi-module project video. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a library that is only made specifically for one NMS version, and then how to import that library back into your main plugin. This is extremely useful as you're going to be seeing when there are changes in classes that have the same package across different Minecraft versions. That means you cannot really import them directly in your main plugin, and you need to import them in a different plugin or a different module, if you will, and then you need to import that module back into your main plugin. And I'm going to be giving you an example of how to implement custom enchantments for Minecraft 1.8.8, 1.16, 1.19, and all the versions in between. Now, I do recommend you have watched the custom enchantments video. The latest update of that video is the current code base we are going to be building on. So if you have watched that, it's going to be easier to follow up. Anyways, I'm going to be giving you a couple of tips and a checklist on how to get this right. So number one, we are not going to be going with the multi-module Maven or using Java 9 modules. I think this is just a little bit too sadistic, if you will. It's too complicated, and I don't like doing hard things. We are just going to be making a duplicate of the NMS plugin that we already have. We're going to be getting rid of all of its internals, including the src main resource, and we're just going to be using it as a library bound to a specific NMS version. Using what I'm going to be showing you is actually better than using like children, parents, multi-module BS, because you can import the following library into any of your plugin without it having to be converted into a multi-project module. So this setup is way easier. Please do not overcomplicate your life. If you want to do hard, but if you want to do easy, follow this video. Now, if you're using Foundation, check if you run on the latest version. Again, we need to go into the POM file, and here, Foundation path, Foundation version, you can find these variables up here. And instead of writing latest, you should have the latest version from the GitHub link, which should be 673 at least, or anything newer. And then the Foundation path should be com.github.kangaroo. Now, if you happen to see that you have Foundation 5 point something, you need to check the last week of this course, NMS Advanced, and then update to 6 first before watching this video. Before watching this video, you need to run build tools with the generate remapped jars option enabled. The reason is very simple. We are going to be using the remapped jars similarly that we used them for the custom enchantments 1.20, or basically any classes that are newer than 1.14. Mojang has begun shipping remapped Mojang mappings. If you need to rehearse your knowledge what Mojang mappings are, please watch that video. I think it's about 1.18 update and Mojang mappings, so it has Mojang mappings in the title. It is in this very week of the course. Please just rewatch that if you need to. And then, since we're going to be now dealing with 1.19, we need to make sure that the POM file is right here. The dependency is able to find the remapped Mojang on your disk for 1.19. By the way, we're not going to be using 1.19 here. We're going to be creating a separate module just for 1.19 and then a separate module just for 1.8. So make sure to get build tools. And then when you open up build tools, they have since this year introduced GUI inside build tools. Make sure you go into select version. You go to 1.19.4. and then you go to options and you hit generate remapped jars, and then you go back to general and you hit compile. And then next, these 3 tips I'm going to be talking about later. These are relevant ones we already have what I'm about to show you. So let's go into what we have already here. Let's go into the NMS plugin, and we can just duplicate it somewhere, and I'm just going to duplicate it to the same folder just like that. And as you can see, I've already done it behind the scenes just to make sure that everything works smoothly. So I'm going to be going with NMS module as a name, v_19, so v1_19, and this is going to be working as a library. And then here we're going to be basically duplicating this and deleting all the junk that we don't need, since this is just a library. So we can get rid of delete this folder only if you have it. If you don't have it, don't panic, it's normal. Delete the git if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry. Delete this one, that one, and then inside library, all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep the patched 1.19.4. However, this I don't think that we're actually gonna need, because we're going to be using the dependency that the build tools have placed inside our hidden. In my users folder, there is a hidden .m2 folder. So actually, I can get rid of that one as well, just like that. And then get rid of the target folder, class path, only if you have it, project, only if you have it, .iml, only if you have it, and then this one, just like that. And then inside source main, I want you to delete the resources, because the library is not going to be a workable plugin. The library cannot be loaded as a plugin. It will be shaded back into the main NMS plugin. And then inside here, let's just open up your package, and we can delete all of your classes except, no, we can actually delete all of your classes. That's right, just so they don't confuse you. And then we can go back into the POM file. Make sure you do not open it in your IntelliJ, otherwise IntelliJ is going to go bonkers. You need to open it in a text editor. And then here, the artifact ID is just going to be, I don't know, NMS module 119. So you cannot really put spaces or any fancy characters here. You're just going to use dashes. And then name here should be NMS module 1.19. You can use the dots and spaces in the name. Version can be 1.0.0. Packaging jar, don't change that. And then the author, we're not going to be using that anywhere. You can just delete that. Main class, we're also not going to be using that anywhere. And then I think you need to compile this using Java 17, since we're dealing with a version of the game that is newer than 1.16. So Java 17 should be here. And then foundation. So again, guys, for you, this is supposed to be the latest number. Foundation path for you, this is supposed to be com.github.conquerco. The reason I have a different setup here is that I'm using foundation from my disk. You are using foundation from GitHub. And then remapped version, so this is going to be 1.19. Effect lib, we are actually not going to be dealing with any effect lib in this module, because the effect lib is only shaded, and it's only used in the main NMS advanced plugin. So get rid of that. And then here, repository, so keep Jetpack and keep main central, but we can get rid of spigot repo. There we go. And then yes, we are going to be needing to use foundation here. Only if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to use it. And then the dependency effect lib is going to be gone, and then all of these dependencies are going to be gone except for the last one. By the way, if you shall want to save your time, just get the source code from below this video, and you can copy over these things, and then you can just make changes above. You can call it different names, you can have a different package, but if you want to save your time, you can just copy. You don't have to code everything. Don't have to do all these changes line by line, because I don't think it's really necessary for your learning just to do that. You have to understand why we're doing them, not just copy them. Great, so keep the dependency, and this is basically using the spigot remapped version. So not from the spigot repository, but from our computer, the one that was installed by build jars to our computer, right? And it's using the 1.19.4, using remapped Mojang as a classifier, and then scope is provided. That means that the library is itself not going to contain the entire spigot server. Otherwise, it would be, it would be very bad. And we're also going to make one other change. That is underneath build, you have plugins, and then you have the shade plugin. So this one, we can get rid of that, because we're not going to be shading any other libraries inside that library or inside this module. And we can also get rid of the special No, actually no. Actually no, we have to keep the special source. That is very important because when we are compiling this module, we want the Mojang mappings to be converted back into spigot mappings. There we go. And as you can see, there's an empty line in my Notepad++. I assume that is a bug, but if I maximize that, now the line is gone. So don't worry if you have the same problem. Awesome. And one other change, I'm actually going to need to put the scope provided to Foundation 2. Now that we don't have Maven Shade plugin, we need to make sure that the scope is selected everywhere. Otherwise, I don't think it will be shaded, but it's a good practice to have it unless you have a different configuration, and we just deleted that configuration, so we reverse back to using scope everywhere. And then I also want to make sure that the dependency is actually on the top. Reason being, Foundation already ships with the latest Spigot API, and it uses the latest version, which tomorrow it can be 1.21, but today it's 1.20. And if you need to override it, as we obviously want, we need to place the overriding dependency on top of it. So now that you have that done, save it. That's pretty much it. What I'm going to do is you can either just go here into View, File, and Open, and you need to open this as a new module. So module 1.19, hit OK, new window. You can do that just fine. That is completely fine, right? And in fact, I do recommend you start like that and then add the end. Okay, so by the way, the end file, the build file, doesn't have to be in the module either because it's not needed. And that's pretty much it. Now we need to go into the current configurations. We need to make sure to create a new one. And by the way, we're not going to be live debugging the module, right? We're going to be live debugging the entire NMS plugin with the module. So that's why we're just going to make sure that this compiles using Maven. Type in clean install as I instruct you throughout the course. Hit OK, and then just hit the launch arrow and make sure that this compiles. It should be very quickly since, it should be very quickly, 3 seconds since there is no classes. Awesome. Now we have that. What some people also prefer is going into the file right here, going to project structure, and then going into, I believe, modules, and then importing this, I think import module as a module that is a separate. So import from, I think, Maven. I personally don't use it. I use Eclipse if I want to have multiple projects in that Windows. You can go ahead, you can use that, but if something goes wrong, I'll just open it in a separate file in IntelliJ, compile it. We're not going to be making that many changes to this module, so it's very safe and you're not going to waste your time by having it separate. The only change we're going to make is, remember, I'm going to give you the custom enchantment continuation of the custom enchantment video. So this time we're going to be just taking in the specific enchant class for 1.20. We're going to be taking that, and I'm going to be using this as an example on how to build that for 1.19 and 1.8. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing. So we can go ahead, we can copy the package from one NMS plugin, go into the module, paste it here, just like that. And looks like it pasted wrongly. So I'm gonna rename this to specific enchant, hit OK, paste it right here, delete the enchant package, and then we need to change that to 1.19, just like that. Now, when you opened it, import should now be broken because we need to change that to 1.19, just like this. And then if we are lucky, everything should stay the same. Now, when it comes to registering, I spent a lot of time researching why it didn't work when I just called registry. And it turns out that there is a bunch of more work that we have to do. And I'm just going to be explaining everything that I've done here. So basically you have the alt registry right here when it comes to enchants. Well, turns out on 1.19, before you call your little register, before that, we need to actually go inside the, where is that? Built-in registries in Minecraft, open up that register, and then call something called create intrusive holder. Honestly, guys, no idea why we have to do all that craziness, but that's just the way we need to do it for that enchant to be properly registered in 1.19 core. And then afterwards, actually, as I explained in the custom enchantments video, the older class in Bukkit, the older enchantment class in Bukkit has its own duplicate register, which is kind of stupid, but that's just the way it is. So we actually have to place our enchantment in the by key and by name as well as a duplicate in buckets register. The way you do that, you just call the buckets class enchantment dot register enchantment. Now that would have been easy, too easy, I'll tell you. Now the problem is that the enchantment right here is actually buckets enchantment, not NMS enchantment. The way you convert from one to other, you just open up a new craft enchantment, you make a new instance of this class, and this class then takes in the NMS enchantment and it converts it into a bucket enchantment. So that's all that there is to it. One new line and then a second new line. And I believe that everything else pretty much could stay just the same. Now, as I had in my notes, my little notes right here, you need to always compile your library with Maven each time you make changes. So let's compile it, and just like that. And then I can actually go into the POM file. I can copy the artifact and we can go into the main plugin right here. And I can go into the POM in the main plugin. And then here I can import that as a dependency. So I'm going to create a new dependency. Artifact ID is going to be whatever I have right here. And then group ID, I can just copy from group ID. Artifact ID, you can copy from artifact ID. And then the version, you can also copy from the version, just like this. And then the scope, we're not going to be using scope right here. We're actually going to be using the lib in the includes folder, include section to be precise, under build, under plugins, and then we're going to find the Maven Shade plugin. And then right here, we're just going to duplicate this line to make sure that we also include the Mine Academy or whatever is your path. And then we want to include the NMS module 1.19. So this is what screwed me up at the very beginning, because I did forget that. Make sure you do not. Again, if you run into any issues, you can just download all the sources, and if it runs on your computer, then it means you just skip a step or two on the video. So then you can return back to watching the lesson and just check that you followed all the steps. And now it's time to actually test it. If everything works, that is it, guys. Quite easy. I mean, creating external libraries isn't that difficult. And if you get this right, you can stop watching. If you want to continue, I'm going to show you for 1.8, but at least continue watching until we figure out if everything works. So first of all, in the NMS plugin, remember in the enchantments video, I showed this line of code to you. So here we can actually do a check. If micro version is at least 1.20, then we can call this. Otherwise, if we are on at least 1.19, then we can call the 1.19 class. And if everything worked fine, you should be able to import this little class. Looks like we're not able to see this class. Well, let's go back to the POM file. Let's hit the magic load Maven changes. Sometimes we need to do that manually on IntelliJ. And then going back here, you should see now that this class has been imported properly. And as you guessed it, it is imported from your very module. I've also noticed through testing that the enchant commands has a hard limit set to 1.16. So make sure you lower this to 1.13. Otherwise, custom enchant is not going to be working for you on 1.19 or even 1.8. Actually, yeah. Having said that, I'm going to lower this down to 1.8 since in this video I'm going to go down as 1.8. Anyways, guys, if you do want to compile it, all you need to do is hit the compile button, and I'm going to be testing live debug and standard compile. So when it comes to standard compile, what do we have to do? Open up the NMS plugin, go to the target folder, and then we can open it with WinRAR and make sure everything is here properly. First of all, build should set build success. And then here inside, if I open it up with WinRAR, we should see that we have the specific enchant, and we should see our own custom class in their very package inside the jar. That means that it's been shipped properly. And if you want to test it as a plugin, all we have to do is drag that plugin into the plugins folder. You do not need to install that other module as a plugin because it's already included in your big jar. By the way, if you forgot, quick tip, you need to have protocol lib installed as a plugin, otherwise the enchants are not going to work. So I've typed in /enchants, and this command has properly given me the 2 customly enchanted items. And I can now see that they do work. They do work indeed. We have beautiful effect. Let me see if Minecraft has registered them properly. Again, you're not going to see them on the tab completion because that is done on the client. You'd need to take over and implement that command on your own way if you do want to have custom tab completion for custom enchant. However, here, let me just type in Black Nova, and there we go. It is now working flawlessly. And let me also check it with a pig or a cow. Yeah, there we go. Everything works on 1.19. Okay, guys, that is it. Now, when it comes to live debug, we need to open up the build file. And then right here in the build file, you have the jar pointing out to different servers, right? For you, this will look a little bit different. But for you, what you need to copy, you need to do a little file set operation right here. So type in file set, and then the dir should point to where you have your little module so that the live debug is actually also going to shade that module inside the jar when you are testing this. So this should go to the NMS module, should look something like this. And notice that I can get rid of the 2 dots right here. And this is a little trick that you can use in case you have the module in the very same folder where you have NMS plugin. That's all you need to do. In case you have it somewhere else, you can of course go and you can copy the entire disk path like this. Okay, but I'm going to save myself that trouble because I already have that in the very same folder. And then make sure that you compile the file set and you duplicate it over to all the other servers that you want to run the hot debug or hot swap or live debug or whatever you want to call it on. And then we can just call server, we can just duplicate this. Okie dokie, so these are all the changes that I've made. I do have a video on live debug in the Java Masterclass course that is also brand new. So if you run into any issues when it comes to live debug, check that video first. And then when the server starts, you should see the NMS plugin jar being copied over, not from Maven, but from And then we can do the same check. So we can open it up with WinRAR, go right here in the NMS, and then go into the specific enchant, and you should see custom enchant. Now, notice that there is an FO package. The relocation that we do in Maven doesn't work in AND, so it's completely fine to see it being in the original package. And here we see that we have a problem. A class couldn't be found. The reason for this is that AND doesn't support recompiling back to spigot mappings from Mojang mappings. So 2 solutions: either you just use spigot mappings when you're having the 1.19 module, and then, my friends, you're gonna be dealing with methods looking like this, A, B, C, right? So either this, or you need to get the paper jar that already uses Mojang mappings, but then the limitation is protocol lib doesn't work well if you run the server in Mojang mappings mode. You can try. I've tried it on 1.20, didn't work much at all. Since we need that, it's not a viable option. So just note, be mindful of these limitations. If you do want to get the entire server in Mojang mappings mode, you can go to mineacademy.org/endpoint. And here we actually provide you a way to get paper Moj map latest. You can just download this like this, copy this over, and you should be able to download the jar file directly. Or you can just replace that with 1_19, and if you do that, yeah, there we go. Now you should get Mojang remapped 1.19 file. And at the very end, if you are here and if you are very old like myself and you want to get this done on 1.8.8, people have requested that, we also gonna do that. And this one is actually going to take us least amount of time because we already have all the groundwork. All we're gonna do is duplicate the NMS module under 1.19. I can just change that to 1.8, get rid of the junk, and then get rid of the target, open up the POM, change this to 1.8.8, and then this too, the name. Let me just scroll down. Java also now needs to be 1.8, make sure to do that. And then the remapped version. So this one, we can get rid of completely. And then we need to actually import the jar as a dependency. So I don't know, guys, if you already have this. If you don't, I'm just going to assume you don't. You need to have a 1.8 server, and then you need to copy, either you have a cached folder. If you do have a cached folder, you need to copy the patched jar. If you don't, then you need to copy the paperclip.jar, the main one. So copy this under the module. You should make a new folder called library. Copy this right here. I'm just going to rename this to patched_1.8.8. And then I'm just going to open up the POM of the main file because we already used this system path setup. So I can just copy this from, let's say, this. And then if you don't have that, do not worry, do not hesitate, just type this in your dependencies, and this will basically get the paper server group artifact version, doesn't matter as long as they are unique, and it's gonna get from the base there, which is which is this directory where you have the module, and then there is a library folder, and then there is the patched underscore, let me just see if it's the same, yeah, the patched jar, and you need to have it just like that. Now notice this is not supporting obviously Mojang mappings, so you'll be stuck with the good old 1.8 mappings. All right, that's pretty much it. Now we need to go and open it up in IntelliJ. So open up 1.8, new window again, and then right here you'll notice that this is actually not gonna work. And this is very bad, right? Now, the thing with this, for 1.8, it works a little bit differently. So, on 1.8, a lot of things have, changed right here. And to save you time, I'm just going to go ahead and open up my already pre-created folder. And I'm just going to copy over the underscore 1.8 just to kind of show you the logic, because I don't really think you guys are interested in copying in like me typing letter by letter and having this video to be 4 hours long, right? So here, very similarly, I did import the NMS class from 1.8 package. However, here the super actually takes in, and this is the biggest difference. So in 1.8, they do not work with name-spaced keys, but they do work with IDs. And I found that the highest vanilla enchantment ID goes from 1 to 62. So then we are going to start with the ID 63, and I just made it a static field so that each time you add a new enchant, this will be increased automatically right here. And that is exactly what I'm going to put into super. And then here is a poor attempt at implementing something that they used before the namespace key, which is called Minecraft key. So I just open it up, put in the namespace key right here, and that's pretty much it. That's all we need to do. And then this is the wave of the enchantment. I don't really understand what the weights do on 1.8. I just put in 1 there and it appeared to be working properly. And then this is the slot type. So I believe that you can also convert that into the target, because the targets should be similar, but not really. The names are a little bit different on 1.8, and I wanted to spare myself that BS of having to convert these names, so I just hard-coded all right here. And you can just look through that and make the change that is desirable for you. Okay, that's all that we need to do. Also, the simple enchantment foundation has implemented set legacy ID right here, because when you are checking, if you hold the enchantment, then we cannot compare by namespace keys because they don't exist. So when we're checking that, and this is just for guys who do not want to use foundation, let me just open up the source. So if you want to find out if the enchantment has your own custom enchantment on 1.8, check this out. You need to actually open up bukkit enchantment class. So the big enchantment class right here. And you need to open up the getID method and find it by the enchantment ID. So that's a little trick that we do in foundation. The reason I use reflection is that the enchantment class on 1.20 no longer has that method, and foundation only imports 1.20. So we do a little trick to save you time. That's why I have to call it right here. And then the register is already done in the super. If I open up the super, I notice that it is already being called right here, as you can see, right? So we don't need to do anything. And then to bukkit, we can actually call the legacy right here. The reason we can call that is that here in the module, we actually have that older version of the enchantment class available, because the module only imports 1.8. I'm repeating myself like a broken record. I hope that makes sense by now. And then the start level, I think that was very similar to, get min level, get max level. So the min level is the start level, max level is the max level. And then AB are the obfuscated variants, I think, for the costs. And chances are that I maybe flip them. So maybe the A is B and maybe the B is A. So you're going to check that if that works fine. And if not, just rename them to whatever. And then can enchant very similarly. That works very similarly to what we had in the 1.19. And then the A, I did assume that this is the conflicts with. So I just did that. And all the other methods, like is tradable, discoverable, we don't support them on 1.8. Unfortunately, you're out of luck. So that's all we're going to do. Now, we need to compile the module, and then I'm going to go back into my main plugin. And you know what, guys? This is very simple. I just have to duplicate this as a dependency 1.8, just like that. Scroll down, and then don't forget to include this in your shaded jar. like this. And then those of you that want to experiment with and, actually this is going to work with and because we're actually using obfuscation that is the same. Just like this, and I can paste it everywhere else. Now, if you do hit compile and it doesn't work, please make sure to hit the load Maven changes. If you can't see it, you have to right click POM file, right click it, go to Maven, hit reload project. Now, before we do compile it, we have to go to the NMS plugin. And right here, we actually have to do a little check. So if the micro version equals 1.8, we have to then import the 1.8 class. And that one should work. And actually 1.8 module is complaining because I did forget to delete the special source plugin. We don't need this because there is no special source for 1.8, and now it's going to work. There we go. And you can even change the source, the target from 17 to 1.8 Java version as well, although it should work. The old micro version supports Java 17, even though it's been meant to be built with and used with Java 8. It should work just fine. First of all, I'm going to go with the enchants class. There we go. Let me see if it works. This will complain about the lack of the effect lib, so you can try to get it working. I did not check if that library works for 1.8. Chances are it doesn't, but at least the sword, there we go, the sword works flawlessly. So there isn't really a problem in the enchantment, there's just a problem with the custom library that the bow is using. Now, when you want to enchant this using the outdated command /enchant from vanilla Minecraft, you'll notice that it wants the ID right here. So that should be 63. And if I'm not mistaken, there we go. Now it says Black Nova right here. So that's a little bit iffy how that works. I don't think we can apply the bow. Can we apply the bow right here? If I'm not mistaken, that should be 64. Enchanting succeeded. No, that doesn't really work. So don't use that command. It's too old, guys. It's been 9 years. Use your own command to give yourself custom enchantments on 1.8, and you should be good to go. As a bonus, I'm going to give you a custom class for 1.16, and I've used a little hack. Now, this hack will not really register this in the Minecraft register, but it's going to register it in bukkit register. That means it will mostly work. You still need to have your own custom events there to add your custom behaviors. It will mostly work. It's not going to show in the enchantments table. If you do want to do that, you need to go the NMS path and just duplicate it over from 1.19 to any older version. But here is an example for example's sake. And this one, it should work from 1.13 to 1.18 actually. So let me just rename that to 1.18. And then this one uses a little trick. So instead of the enchantment class extending the NMS enchant, it actually extends bukkits enchant, because on the older versions, it is entirely possible. And then when it comes to registering, we can just do that. Very simple call. When it comes to 2bukkit, these versions, since they are newer than 1.13, the namespace keys have been already introduced. We can just call get by key. And then pretty much there's been a few changes. Let me just compare them line by line. So I think 2bukkit, get min level, there isn't such a thing as get min level. Yeah, you'll notice that there is a lot less stuff that you'll able to take over, control. And then there is conflicts with, which is directly, this is also directly correlated. And then there's a start level, max level, is treasure, is cursed. That's about it. There is nothing else. Okay, there's nothing else. So that's how it works. This one is very simple. You'll find the source code below. Let me just compile it, add it, and test it in 1.16. It should work from 1.13 to 1.18. Once again, I'm going to test it on 1.16. Make sure to do another else if statement. If this is at least 1.18, we are going to boot this up. So pretty much this code should, in theory, I've only tested a few specific versions, but in theory, it should work from 1.20 down to 1.8. How beautiful is that? Now, it's not going to work on 1.9, 1.10, 1.11, 1.12 because the 1.8 handler uses NMS. If you can convert that back into what I'm using in this little hacky class, then you should be able to get it working up to 1.12 and 1.8 and 1.7 automatically. But that's for homework for those hardcore dudes that are still stuck with that version. And also a note, you'll notice that I've placed the 1.18 class in the 1.19 module. We do not need to make a new module for that, in case you were wondering. The reason for this is that the alt enchantment class only changed from 1.19 to 1.20. So 1.18 still has the same class almost as 1.19, so it's gonna work just fine. A small little logical issue, so this at least, it should be at least 1.13, not at least 1.18. Now in the game, you'll notice the difference. I cannot use the vanilla command because using the hacky way of just using bukkit class instead of using NMS doesn't actually register the enchant in vanilla Minecraft. But if I type in /enchant command, you'll notice that it does work and the effect is applied properly, including the get bow effect. The thing that makes that work is simply that we have, when it comes to enchantments, we have our own custom event dealing with that logic, right? We are our own custom logic right here, which completely takes over vanilla Minecraft. So in theory, you should be good to go with just using bukkit on these ancient legacy versions. You should not run into any issues, but if you do, then you need to go the NMS way and implement it version by version specific. I hope that this video is helpful, quite long. I've given you a lot of bonus and a lot of extra value. So comment below if you found this helpful, comment below if you need any feedback, any more explanations. Jump on a live coaching call with me. We do them twice a week for you guys. These are meant to help you. You can share your code. I can have a look at it in case you're running into anything, and I will see you in the next video. Namaste.